and we do drive your business. My name is Anthony, the coolest guy around here when it comes to financial markets, and I bring you the latest updates from all over the globe, of course in the regional markets as well as the local markets here, giving you a chance to know what's happening in the markets, but also giving you some of the opportunities that are there for you in the markets. The show is proudly brought to you by Altex East Africa, your #1 private stock exchange. Altex now is found on your smartphone, on your small Mapesa phone. You can now simply dial *292# and you will be able to access treasury bonds across East Africa. Now, for starters, treasury bonds are transferable debts, and these are some of the financial asset classes that are there in the financial markets, and of course doing so well at the moment, of course because of the volatility of other markets or other financial markets. Now, if you want to take part of this trade, you have to do something very simple. Have some money on your mobile money and make sure you're willing to put this money onto these investments. Then you can dial *292# and be able to transact some of those funds, starting with as little as 15,000. You don't need 1,000,000 shillings. And this is the fear of most Ugandans. Lending to government, how can I do that? Well, you need as little as 15,000 or more. Even if it's 100 million, Altex has got you covered. The interest rates are very favorable and they come in handy. Altex is also a regulated body by the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda. Altex doing something new. Now, before we went into the break, we talked roughly the Uganda Stock Exchange, looking at what happened at the exchange and what we should be looking forward to. Now, we saw that Umeme was a big performer there, and I want us to dive into the stock of Umeme and get to see what they had for us on the 5th day of trading. Now, the company, of course, is a supplier of electricity in Uganda, and currently it is valued at, their shares are valued at exactly 341 billion Ugandan shillings floated on the exchange, and these are worth about 1.62% of the entire equities market at the Uganda Securities Exchange. Looking at their current position in value, they currently hold the 10th position in terms of value. That is based on their market capitalization, which is the value of their shares that are floated on the exchange. Now, on Friday, the company had 730,700 shares, which was the biggest volume that was traded. And these shares were valued at over 153 million Ugandan shillings. We're talking about 153 million in a single day that was traded on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Their shares outstanding are currently 1.62 billion shares, valued at 341 billion, like I mentioned before. And the current performance of Umeme has been impressive. Impressive is actually an understatement, because the stock market is really going through a difficult time, to be honest. And there are so many companies which are doing so badly, and the activity has slimmed a little bit, and then also the global markets generally have also been facing different problems. But Umeme has been one of those stocks that have continued to remain resilient despite the tough economic environment in which they are operating, and of course the situation in which the shareholders are going through, which is inflation and so many other problems. But the stock has remained resilient. Looking at their last day of trading, they did have their current price 210.0 shillings maintained by the end of the trading session. And however, looking at their year-to-date, they did begin with 189.0 Ugandan shillings opening price this year, and calculating their year-to-date performance, they have earned about 11.1% on their year-to-date, according to of course, this data. Now, the company is the second most traded on, and this is in the last 3 months, dating back from the 29th of August to the 25th of November 2022. Wumeme has traded a total volume of close to 4.34 billion Ugandan shillings. That's quite impressive in terms of turnover. And of course, this is evidenced by the Capital Markets Authority quarterly bulletins that have continuously showed in the first quarter, in the second quarter, even in the third quarter, bulletins that Wumeme still came out on top in terms of the turnover there at the Uganda Stock Exchange. Their average volumes are currently about 337,000 per trading session on the stock exchange, which is still also a very wonderful trade at Wumeme. Now, despite just having these 700,000 shares on Friday, they did have 700,000 on the 24th, that was on Thursday, and they had 3.25 million shares on the 23rd of August, on the 23rd of November, and then 77 on the 22nd of November. And so you're seeing the kind of aggressiveness that the shareholders are still showing despite whatever is happening at the exchange is quite impressive. And of course, this is one of the companies you can look forward to in terms of future gain. Also, for those of you seeking dividends, the company has a good dividend history, and they have issued dividends on their the last year, I think last financial year, when they declared their results. One of the very first companies actually to do declare a dividend of over 54.9 Ugandan shillings per share, which was, I think, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, on the Uganda Stock Exchange. And so you should be checking out Wumeme stock. I mean, 200 shillings is not a lot to lose for the long-term gain. And the sweetness of getting to such stocks is the long-term security they do offer. Unlike the smaller caps, they do give high returns, but when it comes to volatility, it hits different as well, because they are so much hit, especially when investors are liquidating and the markets are doing bad, they will come crashing downwards. So that's the high-end risk, okay? High risk, high return. Low risk, low return. But it depends on really the type of investor you are. That's why the stockbrokers usually do what they call a KYC, know your customer, to know how much risk you can take in and get you definitely that stock that will be able to suit your risk appetite. Now, away from Wumeme, Stanbic came closely competing with Wumeme as well as Bank of Baroda. Now, Stanbic had, let's see, about 100,000 shares that were recorded on the fifth day rather, of trading. This wasn't a big volume, but I mean, it's Stanbic Bank, and this was a 2.1 million Ugandan shillings turnover that was registered on the company that has currently about 1.07 trillion Ugandan shillings listed on the exchange, making this company the fifth most valuable on the Uganda Stock Exchange here in Uganda. And currently, when you look at their participation in the trades, it has been pretty good and has driven the company into the #1 most traded on stock on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Currently, we are looking at between the 29th of August and the 25th of November, about 65.4 million shares that are valued at 1.37 billion Ugandan shillings over the period, with an average of about 1.04 million traded per trading session here at the Uganda Stock Exchange. Now, a volume high of 53 million was achieved on the 20th of October within this period, and still they do present frequent performances on the exchange, at least on a daily basis. They are something still to reckon, and of course they do have a close competitor here, Bank of Baroda Uganda. Both companies are good at dividend issuance, issuing a dividend over 100 billion last year, and they did also so well when it comes to their financial statements, and the statements looked pretty awesome. with nothing really lacking in their statements. And that's the what we had for the Uganda Stock Exchange. Maybe just look at Bank of Baroda Uganda just to get a picture of what this movement was like. Well, they had about 85,200 shares transacted, and these ended in 7.24 million Ugandan shillings turnover, and about 2.5 billion shares outstanding. Currently, the company has a total market capitalization of 213 billion Ugandan shillings that are listed on the stock exchange, making this company the 12th most valuable on the market. And regarding the performance here, there was, of course, the company maintained its position in the 4th most traded on within the last 3 months, and currently they are counting about a total of just 4.65 million shares valued at 395 million Ugandan shillings in the past 3 months. That's it. That's what we had for you from the Uganda Stock Exchange. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to cross over to the land of Uhuru, and we get to look at the Kenyan markets here at the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Now, on this day, the final day of trading for the Nairobi Stock Exchange, there was a little, slight improvement in terms of when you look at the volume. There was a 1% improvement in the volume. There was also a 48% decline in the turnover, which was a turnoff for me. But at least also the companies participating raised from 43 to 44 companies participating in the trades there at the Nairobi Stock Exchange, ending the day with 20 top gainers and close to 16 losers, which was a well-balanced market. However, generally speaking, the markets ended with a loss of over 0.23. That's regarding when you look at their all-share index, they lost about 0.23 points, and this is the benchmark index. So we really look at this and get to judge what the entire market movement was like. And then this was a 1 week loss of 1.35% on their all-share index, and a 0.9% weekly loss on the market. Now, when you look at the top gainers, the coffee company here called Sasini Tea and Coffee came in at the top position in the gainers side at exactly 6.43% share price appreciation, closing at exactly 22.35 Kenyan shillings per share. He was followed very closely by Kenya Reinsurance Corporation at a 3.89 percentage gain as well. Olympia Capital still has held a grip on its gaining spree last week, closing strongly at a 3.33 percentage share price appreciation. Then Stanley Fahari Income REIT gained about 2.86% on its performance there at the Uganda the Nairobi Stock Exchange on the markets at Nairobi. And looking at the losing side, Ever Ready East Africa came out last with an end of day price depreciation of close to about 3.9%, closing at exactly 0.74 Kenyan shillings per share on the Nairobi markets. And then Car and General also had a bad day at a 3.73% loss, and CIC Insurance Group lost about 3.54%, as well. Kaba Seed Investments losing about 2.15% on the all share on the Nairobi Stock Exchange here. Surprisingly, Kaba Seed Investments, being a loser, came out at the biggest volume, with the biggest volume for the day. Of course, with 1.36 million shares that were recorded on the last day of trading. He was followed by Safaricom Investments at 499,100 shares volume, and KCB Group at exactly 327,000 900 shares that were recorded, and Ken General Group at 210,500 shares that were recorded on the exchange. Now let's start with Sasini Tea and Coffee and get to see if this is a company we can hold on to, or it's just a temporary gain here that we must not rely on. Now, because this is a cross listing, it's important for us to know the background and get to know what this company deals in. Sasini Tea and Coffee is a Kenyan-based company engaged primarily in the production, processing, and the sale of coffee and tea. The company is involved in the growth and processing of tea and coffee and commercial milling, as well as marketing of coffee, forestry, dairy operations, livestock, as well as horticulture in Kenya. The company operates in 3 divisions: tea, coffee, and others. The tea division is involved in basically the growth, processing of tea, and the coffee section as well. And then the others, of course, includes the livestock, the dairy operations, and so on and so forth. The company currently is the 25th most valuable, which is a very good position, by the way, for a basically agricultural company. And currently they hold about 0.257% of the entire Nairobi Stock Exchange equity market. And this, of course, brings their market capitalization close to 5.1 billion Kenyan shillings, rather, there on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Now, yesterday, they did have a share price, rather on Friday, they did have a share price appreciation of close to 1.35 points upwards to 22.35 Kenyan shillings at exactly 6.43% gain in price at the Nairobi Stock Exchange. And looking at their day's low price, the lowest price they achieved was a 21.0 Ugandan shillings, and the highest price was a 22.50 Ugandan shillings at the moment. Their traded volume was exactly 1,100 shares that was recorded on the 5th day of trading, rather, there in exactly 4 deals that were made on the stock exchange. Now, interestingly, let's look at the year-to-date performance of this company and get to compare it also with the recent monthly performance. Well, before we go even into that, it looks really, really great. Looking at their year-to-date performance, let's see. The company started the year with a price of 18.70 Ugandan shillings, currently counting 22.35 Kenyan shillings in price. It has gained 19.5%. We are talking over 20%. And to put this into perspective, if you are investing in a business and it's giving you 20% a year, meaning if I invested 100 million in this company, I'm going to reap over 20 million at the end of the year. That's the kind of picture I'm giving you here. And that's how you should be interpreting these figures, not just merely knowing that they have gained 20%. You have to know what it means for you as a shareholder. Of course, depending on how much you're investing, depending on how much you're willing to put aside. This company has not only gained in the year-to-date performance. When you look at Sasini Tea and Coffee's monthly performance, they have, of course, accrued a 6% value on their stock price, which should really make investors or shareholders very, very optimistic about buying shares in such a growing company. They are the 37th most traded on stock on the Nairobi Stock Exchange in the last 3 months. And we are talking a volume of over 257,900 shares in the past 207 deals in this period. A value of about 5.52 million Kenyan shillings that has been registered on Sasini Tea and Coffee. There you have it. That's Sasini Tea. So at the end of the day, is it just a temporary gain? I don't think so. I think there's a lot to look ahead for in Sasini Tea and Coffee, but of course you must be careful as you enter into the market. You can buy a few shares there and see how the stock moves for you, especially as we begin the new year. This should be one of the companies you're strategizing on investing in. When you look at Kenya Reinsurance Corporation, getting at a 3.39%, Then Olympia Capital Holdings is also a good one nowadays. We've seen Olympia Capital Holdings really perform well last week. Also carrying on their effects from the other week before last week. So they do still have a lot of a lot of money. Some people can actually get to invest and get to reap big on the exchange. Now, I don't want to go any further on the Nairobi markets. You can find more at www.nse.com or at our channel or our website at www.smart24tv.com. Let's look at other financial markets here. Particularly the stock markets didn't perform well, but we're looking at Zimbabwe, who gained about 106 points. You see, a very good performance there that was pulled off as well for Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. And because time is not on our side, I may not go into the US stock markets, but remember they were in a holiday as well, so who knows. My name was Anthony, and I was very glad to have you this morning. I'll catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. Bye for now.